Anne Fallon's mother was Bridget Dolan, and Bridget had married James Fallon, and they had 5 children. And James passed away, and Bridget then married a fellow by the name of John Fallon. He was Big John Fallon. Now he would have been a neighbour, but no relation. At least not that we know of anyway. But again, what usually happened was, because the man of the house had died, Bridget would probably have moved out, but into John's house. But that wasn't the case. John moved in with Bridget into the house in Lahan and took on the 5 kids, and they had 4 more daughters. So they were all raised as John's kids, like over the years. Like we all thought that all of those Fallons were our relations, but it turns out that they were half siblings. And then the Fallons used to have there was a Fallon family in Lahan, and there was another Fallon family in Ballyglass, and they had arranged marriages. So they were all interrelated. And then you had the 3rd Fallon family in Lahan, which was our crowd. So John had moved in with Bridget, married her, into James's house. And one of his daughters was the Anne Fallon. So when Michael Donoghue married her, he moved into that house as well. So they sort of got their feet in under the table there, it was a Fallon family house, but the other Fallons. So in order to sort of, what seems to have happened in order to sort of smooth it over, John raised James's kids as his own, well, which was natural enough because he was after marrying their mother. But they all carried on as if they were siblings. And half of the siblings in the house were cousins of the other Fallons, but half of them were no relation. So the Dolan connection was sort of lost. And it was only last year now, when the Fallon gathering was on, that they started researching their own family, and they found out they got back so far, and they had 9 children here, and 5 of them had James Fallon and 4 of them had John Fallon. So they didn't know who this James was. But it turns out that James would have been their ancestor, and John was the fella that sort of snuck his way into the into the house, like. But there was, in John's house, that Fallon family, like, he had brothers there, like, so they are still in that house there. Well, his ancestors, and
some of the land was even linked together.
They were always fighting over the land.
Fields and
But they swapped fields a couple of times. You picked up on that, Kyle, with the land registry. But the other one was the Petty Sessions records, like over a period of about 10 years maybe in the 1880s. The Donoghue, Michael Donoghue, that moved in there, was in the Petty Sessions on a regular basis for fighting with the Fallon fellas out on the road. And there was one record where they, just out of badness I suppose, they built a wall across the road so that the Fallons couldn't get into their own house. And this was in, so there were, like, and if you, I remember talking to Park about it, like, about last year when that Fallon gathering was on, like, and he like, you want to hear the way he was talking about them, he just hated them, like, they were. So there was a lot of animosity, it seems, between the two families over John going into that house and taking over that farm, when it should have been basically James's sons or nephews that should have taken it, like. So it was a bit of a land grab by the sounds of things, and like 2 generations later it was sort of forgotten about. Well,
not really.
in the wider community, they didn't think anything of it, like. But the Fallons and the Donoghues obviously remembered it for a good while afterwards.
Now who's living in it now?
That's the home place now. It's Donoghue's in Lahan. That's
They're still
Like it
there.
was originally Anne Fallon's
There's a
house.
cousin of mine there now, the young one.
So Michael married Anne, and he moved in there, and that would be Peter's parents.
Mm-hmm. Oh, your parents, right.
And John was the eldest. That'd be my great grandfather, your grandfather. And he was the eldest, so he took it on. And then Pack, his son, took it on, and Pack's son Paul is there now. Paul, are we going to see Paul today?
Yeah, Paul will be there too.
So
So the
the
other family thought they should get it.
The family.
we'll go back that far, yeah.
Yeah.
But the mother disinherited the sons, really. You know, she had the sons from the first
Yeah,
husband.
that's what happened, yeah.
Really, it was her farm. Even though Mike had married in there.
Now the other part of the story is John's death cert, wasn't it? He was listed as Big John Fallon.
Was, yeah.
And I remember, like, he was renowned as being a huge man, like, so that was obviously part of it as well. Like, nobody wanted to tell him, look, you can't do that. It's he was obviously big enough and strong enough to go in and say, well, who's going to put me out of here? Like, so they were Catholic landowners, and all of the land, the Trench family and the Pakenham family, that would have been all originally Fallon land.
That was taken away.
That was taken off them, yeah. But the Fallon name would have came from people who worked on the land, would have taken the name of the landowner. So they wouldn't have been like those Fallons they consider themselves to be of royal Celtic blood, like.
Yeah.
But the Fallons that are in the area now wouldn't have any connection with them. They would have just taken the name.
So when Michael Donoghue marries Anne Fallon, is he marrying well by marrying a Fallon?
He would have been married.
He would have been, yeah.
Moving up.
Married a good woman.
Yeah.
A woman of means. But she disinherited who?
Her original sons.
Whoa.
Really?
Well, Bridget would have done that,
Her
yeah.
mother Bridget. Anne's mother Bridget, right?
Whoa.
She didn't really. She didn't. It was. No, I suppose she didn't because the Anne's mother. Yeah, she would have been disinherited. The original.
Well, see, we don't know what
They probably went off and got farms of their own.
they
anyway.
probably were looked after by the other Fallon crowd.
Interesting.
Now, where did Michael come from before he was in Lahan?
Ballyglass.
Which is where?
That's where we.
That's where the Conniffs
the
are now.
brand. Remember we showed you the brand.
He would have been Edward's
Conniffs are there
son.
now. There's a kind of history repeating itself. The Donoghue name is gone there now. That is turned into Conniffs.
Yeah, because Michael Donoghue was the last Donoghue in there,
Yeah.
and he married Maggie Conniff, and they had no family. So Maggie's nephew got the land. So it stayed in the Conniff name
the
rather
rice
than.
line.
I remember I always had a picture of Jesus.
So there's two farms there by Donoghue's. Another farm was another John Donoghue, who would have been a first cousin of my grandfather, and your grandfather, and he had no family either. And Carol's at that now. He died before his wife at a fairly large age, and his wife gave the farm over to her nephews, or Carol's. So we lost that farm as well.
Are you?
So
you
we
have
got
this all down?
we're all one farm.
It's on camera.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's on tape.
I'll show you that house today now. There's a new house there. The old house was there. It's just right at the little village itself, just down the Four Roads Road, where Tom Carroll lives.
So it's not good when we lose farms.
No,
No, but we gained a big one
Yeah.
when we got Fallon's.
Ah. Well, thank God for John.
yeah.
Big John. Big Bad John. There's a song called Big Bad John. Who did that song, John? Big Bad John.
Johnny Cash.
No. The sausage guy.
Jimmy Dean.
Yeah. Big Bad John. There's a song.
But that was like it was only the
Jimmy Fallon.
Eileen Finnan was doing the Fallon family tree, and she only found that
There
out
it is?
about a year ago.
I know, I'm not sure.
So
all this
we
area over that area there, we're going to. numerous Fallon families there. They're all across that area. They're all, some of them related, some of them not related. But there are an awful lot of Fallons there.
We're going there today?
Yeah, we'll be showing you. It's the general area where the old graveyard is, and where the Dysart village is. All that here is nearly every second house is a Fallon.
Wow.
The old graveyard was known as the Fallon graveyard.
Their coat of
Because
arms is in
the landed Fallon family would have probably built that church, and some of them went on to become bishops and that, like, and they were all buried there. So after they had left, then the locals just kept on using it. But it's known as the Fallon graveyard. Would have been probably a private graveyard for the Fallon family at some stage. Like.
Is it typical for a graveyard to be named after the family that has the most graves in it?
Well, no, that particular Fallon family would have been the landed gentry of the time, like. So it would have been probably a private graveyard at some stage. They would have built a church on it and used the graveyard, and it was only after a time then that the local common people would have been using it.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
When's the last time that your two families had contact?
Oh yeah, there's that. Did you keep contact up with any of the Irish families over the years?
Our side?
Yeah.
I have contact with Peter, the oldest Donohue's, one of their kids, Kelly. So Peter Donohue, he died at 42 of lung cancer, the oldest.
That's your grandfather?
No, my uncle.
That's John's.
So the oldest and my dad.
Oh, your
Dad had Peter, Michael, Elizabeth, Anita, and Amy. So Peter had 5 kids, 4 girls and a boy. Anita had 2 kids, a boy and a girl. Elizabeth never married, didn't have any kids. Dad had 4, 3 girls and a boy, us. And then Eamon had 2 girls. So with Peter's kids, I keep touch with Kelly. She emails me. So, and I have all her siblings' information, email addresses, birth, marriages, all that, to put in a tree. I haven't done that yet. And then Aunt Marilyn, Eddie's widow, I have her email address. Of course, Elizabeth, well, nothing to keep contact with. Anita, I have contact with Steve, her son. And then
He was the pilot,
he's the
airline
pilot, yeah. And then who's left?
Eamon.
I did him.
Well,
Yes.
he's always
But
been
had you
your
any contact with your grandfather's brother Michael? There's no record. What
happened? Yesterday we met with some of the Mulligans, and it's the first time I know most of them because I'm the oldest, and that's the first time I'd seen a picture of him in a long time. I remember him though. I remember Tommy Mannion and Aunt Nanny, and Uncle Tommy, the guy who never married and lived with my grandparents and outlived them actually and stayed in the apartment. But I remember when I saw the pictures of them, it was great because I hadn't seen pictures or seen any of them since I was little, under 10. So, but I don't know.
Did he ever get married at all? Probably did he? Maybe
No,
not.
Tommy never got. Uncle Tommy never got married.
No, but Michael.
You're talking about
Michael-
Peter Donohue's
your granduncle.
Oh no,
He
that's
probably never got married, did he? Michael, the other brother, your grandfather's brother, Michael.
We don't know.
We don't know about.
He stayed in New York as well.
No, I don't know about him. I
You
never.
can't get
When
out
I
to
was a
him at all.
kid, I
It
never
looks like he
Michael
never got married. I'd say.
No, I never met a Michael Donohue.
Now, was he the one that supposedly was a fireman too?
Yeah, that's what Patsy Daly told us. That he
I'm
worked as a
surprised he never
fireman with
came to the house
your
because we
grandfather.
met all the Mulligans. That
Because he went to America at the same time as your father,
yeah.
your grandfather.
But I'm surprised we
The
never.
two of them went together. The older 2 went first, and then Michael and Peter went next, and then Pat went the last, slightly after them.
Well, I'm surprised because we went to New York City at least. We lived in Connecticut about 2 hours away. We probably went once every 2 months at least to New York City for a weekend. to visit both grandparents. You know, we'd see all of them. And I don't ever recall meeting, we met Michael Mulligan, but I don't remember ever meeting a Michael Donahue. I don't ever remember that. So it was Mulligan we met, but not him. So I wonder why not, because Pop, Peter Donahue, Pop, was a fireman too. So I don't know why. Well, Mary Mulligan though, she ruled the roost. Peter's wife, she was in charge. She was the queen bee, man.
Well, I met your grandfather once, and I've only vague recollection. I was about 5 or 6. He came to Ireland once, and he came back down to Lahan. I was very small at the time.
What year would that have been?
I'd say to be sometime in the 50s, early 50s, I imagine. I was.
Well, I know Patsy Daly has a lot of photographs of them.
Oh, he does?
She
Oh,
does.
she does. Keep getting that wrong.
But she went to America herself when she was a teenager. And I asked her about Michael, and she said she has very scant recollection of him as well. All that she knew was that he was a fireman.
I wonder why. I mean, I'm surprised that he hadn't
Unless he
come over
died
to
young
see
or
us.
something.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it was Peter, Michael, John, and Patrick.
I have to pick up a Rosie.
Kyle,
More than that.
Not
More than
brothers, yeah,
that.
they were brothers, yeah.
do you have a death record for Michael Donahue?
I
More
don't.
than that?
We can't find anything about him.
No, there were 7 boys.